look at like, and now when I started on the Navy team, I was the worst guy on the Navy team again. I was the
Yeah, I
worst
want to
guy.
hear. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, your journey there too, though. Please share. Yeah.
Well, I was the worst guy who made the team, if that makes sense. So out of the 10 weight classes, like I was definitely probably the weakest link. Um, but I feel like I was one of the youngest ones. I had never wrestled Greco in my life.
Oh my God.
Um, but I was one of the worst ones. I feel like it was kind of the same thing. If I would have put a year, so I wrestled with the Navy for 5 years,
Hmm.
4 of which Rob Herman was my main coach. And I would go back to a smaller team called SOPAC in San Diego, California in the off season.
Okay.
And I had some good training partners and friends there. The training partners and friends were more of the coaches of that club. There was a captain that oversaw it, but he was a great guy, but I don't think he really taught wrestling. He would do conditioning and stuff, and he
Hmm.
oversaw it. But I had Division I wrestlers that kind of, there's a guy, Kurt Kyle, there who kind of ran it. Grant Whitmer, I don't know if you know some of these guys that
Hmm.
they wrestled through the Naval Academy, and they were Division I wrestlers, and
Okay.
so I would learn from those guys. And
Yeah.
then there was some guys on our team that were absolute studs, and
Hmm. Hmm.
some of them you might not even heard of because they had the Navy to worry about. And sometimes like
Right.
we had a guy, Mark Gaskell, who one of the most talented guys I ever saw wrestle,
Hmm.
but the Navy pulled him to do his Navy job, and so it's
Yeah.
hard,
Yeah.
but
I considered it, but exactly that. There was, even if you went to Army or the Marines, you still have a job you're in the military,
yeah.
Yeah. It's a
I,
very interesting way to go.
and actually so just fast forward a little bit, but
Sure.
I kind of started off in the Navy just like I did in high school. I was the worst kid, the worst man. I was 18 wrestling grown men. They were 10 years
Yes.
older than me. Um, One guy was younger that I wrestled that was a stud, and he just kicked my butt. His name was Josh Hall. I
Okay.
remember that.
Yeah,
But
I
then I was
remember.
wrestling Mike Van Arsdale, Dan
Oh my God.
Hicks,
Legend.
Bobby Lashley,
Legend.
Dominic Black.
And you had all the big guys. Yeah,
I
heavyweight.
had all
Were you
these big.
96?
I was
Kid?
96.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Wow.
and all these guys that were just, and I apologize because I know I'm leaving some out. There's definitely more, but
Sure.
needless to say, I walked in and I was definitely in the wrong place. I would say I was in the right place, just at the wrong time in my
Maybe.
life.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I was still a little kid wrestling men,
Yes.
and kind of progressed the same way. My next year, I think Rob mentioned to me, he's like, "Yeah, you're the most improved I've seen." Kind of did the same path, and then by like year 3, 4, and 5, I was one of the top guys.
Yeah.
Year 3, and then year 4 and 5, I was probably the top guy, top 1 or 2 guys on the
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
And I just worked my butt off. I worked.
Yeah.
People say like, "What did you do?" And I said, literally from that year, my freshman year in high school, for the next 12 years, I trained, minus maybe boot camp. That was probably the only time I took off of that time. But I probably 12 years straight of doing 2 or 3 practices a day,
Yeah.
5, 6 days a week. I'd usually take a day off a week. Sundays was usually kind of our day off, but
Mhm.
I just kept on going, and had good mentors. And I made it a
Yeah.
point, to be the hardest worker in the room, no matter what room I was in. And it just kind of paid off down
Yeah.
the road. I
It's
mean, there's a lot more
amazing.
to it, but
Of course, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and I can't wait to read the detail in the book too and learn more. But and maybe this is a silly question, but and you've gone on to achieve so much more since then too, which is awesome because a
yeah,
lot of people look, they can exclamation point and that's the end of the story in some regard. But you are such anyway. We'll get to it. You've achieved so much since. But the question was like, man, at that point, just knowing you came from a single mother, like not in a fluid background, like you had good mentors and stuff, but you went to the Olympics and you medaled and you came home. And I know it may sound like a silly question, but was like your mom just like ecstatic? I mean, this had to be a dream come true for your whole family, I imagine, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I, I, looking back, I wish that I would have realized in the moment. Olympic trials, 2004. I wasn't going to be the top guy. I was there. I ended up being 4th that year. I
Okay.
lost in the to make the national team. I lost for the third place match to a guy who I had beaten one time in my career, but it was a guy that I looked up. His name was Dan Hicks. My first couple, he was the first Greco. He was like one of my first Greco matches.
Okay.
He was so much better than me when I was 18 that he teched me and pinned me.
Oh,
he
no.
teched me, and right before he teched me, he's like, "Okay, I'm going to pin him now for the team points."
Ooh.
And like it was, and I believe he's 28 when I was 18, I believe. So we're about a 9 or 10 year difference.
Yeah.
But he was like the guy that I looked up to because he's a Marine. I was Navy. After all this stuff, you get a meet. We all hang out together.
Yeah.
And so he was like a guy that I looked up to. And then in 2000, so 4 years later, that was 2000. 4 years later, I can't remember. I beat him at a tournament. I don't remember if it was nationals or the U.S. nationals before the trials or something like that, but I beat him at a tournament. And I still remember that as being like, that was like one of my big stepping stones. Like I just beat Dan Hicks, who has been top 2 guy in the country for many years. And, but then we came back to the Olympic trials and he beat me for true thirds. I wasn't actually even upset, because he put his shoes on and retired right after that match.
Wow.
And I looked up to the guy. And I was kind of honored, like, hey, I was his last match that he ever wrestled at this level. I clapped my hands and he was just that guy. But so long story short, the support, I had my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and my mom at that 2004 trials. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 4 years later, I believe I had about 40 friends and family members at the Olympic trials.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was really special. And then, and these guys had been coming to the, I grew up 4 hours away from Vegas, and everything was in Vegas back then.
Okay. Yeah.
So they had, from 04 when I was good. And, I take that there's a couple other guys that would support me, even like my first year at nationals, my old high school coaches. Cause I had 4 coaches. The one who said, "You're not ready for a camp yet." I don't hold that against him. I think he's hard-nosed guy. He left. My main coach that I told you about, and then I had 2 new coaches that came in, I believe my junior and senior year, who were more like older brothers to me, and I'm still friends with them. One of them is one of my best friends. To this day, I talk to him all the time. The other one's a really good friend. We don't talk as often. Those guys were there every single year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then I had, just the support. Like I wish I would have realized how much support I had.
Yeah.
But then 21 of those people went to China just to watch me wrestle.
Wow.
So I think it was 21. It might've been like 18 but
man, that's huge.
You
brought a bus.
I had so much support. So when I won and made the Olympic team, that was huge. And then obviously getting the medal was amazing, to have that much support and like I said, I look back on it now, and that's one of the things that I remember more than, my personal experiences. I just remember like, man, I had some people that really, really cared and backed me. And, especially like my family, but my wife, who I met in college, the support it's huge.
Yeah.